Donald Trump is already the Republican nominee. His last remaining primary opponent, Nikki Haley, dropped out 8 weeks ago in the beginning of March. And yet, somehow, in yesterday's Republican primary in Indiana, which, to be clear, is a state that Trump would claim is very, very friendly territory for him, he only garnered 78% of the vote, while Nikki Haley, who, again, dropped out 8 weeks prior, garnered 22% of the vote, nearly a quarter of the vote, or about 130,000 votes in total. This is the part of the primary process where Trump should be consolidating full support from his party. Instead, he is getting embarrassed in state after state. And when Indiana is part of that mix, he knows he's got a problem. This comes just 2 weeks after Trump was dealt a similar blow in Pennsylvania. Nikki Haley had dropped out 6 weeks prior, and yet still, Trump only managed 83% of the vote, while Haley took 17%, or about 160,000 voters in total, which is especially bad in that state, considering Trump lost Pennsylvania to Biden in 2020 by 80,000 votes. Far from making up that ground, he's now shedding double that amount from within his own primary base. And let's be clear, this has been the story of this primary season. Trump managed only 51% in Iowa, 54% in New Hampshire, 60% in South Carolina, 33% in DC, 68% in Michigan, 46% in Vermont, 79% in Ohio. Trump may frame himself as the second coming of Christ within the GOP, and Republicans may point to all the polling in the world, but when actual human beings cast actual ballots, we keep getting the same story. Trump is weak and voters are rejecting him. In fact, all signs point to the fact that it's only likely going to get worse. According to the latest Reuters Ipsos poll from a few weeks back, when registered voters were asked if they would vote for Trump if he was convicted of a felony, only 24% said yes, while 60% said no. Even among Republicans, 24% said they wouldn't, which is a huge number of voters in a party whose identity is solely predicated on allegiance to the God King. And now that the trial has begun, the possibility of a conviction is suddenly very real, along with the consequences that come with it. If that is not a warning sign for Trump and his campaign, nothing is. All of which underscores the serious problems that Trump's campaign is contending with right now. Not only does his performance highlight his pattern of weakness within his own base, not only does it undermine his perceived strength that he's some master politician who can't stop winning, but most importantly, Nikki Haley, even after her departure from the race, continues to identify hundreds of thousands of voters for the Biden campaign in terms of who they can flip. Even 8 weeks after leaving the race, she's proven herself invaluable at leaving the Democrats a blueprint, a breadcrumbs trail of exactly what persuadable voters are out there. And the Biden campaign is wasting exactly zero time in targeting them.
Bird brain. I call it bird brain. Nikki Haley has made an unholy alliance with rhinos, never-Trumpers, Americans for no prosperity. She was sitting there like...
She's gone crazy. She's a very angry person.
She is not presidential timber. I don't need votes. We have all the votes we need.
She's gone haywire.
There aren't that many never-Trumpers anymore.
How do you bring these Nikki Haley voters back into the tent?
I'm not sure we need too many.
And it seems to be working. Here's a montage of former Republican and Trump voters flipping parties put together by a group called Republican Voters Against Trump.
I'm a former Trump voter.
I voted for Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020.
In 2020, I voted for Trump again.
I will never support Donald Trump.
I will not vote for him in 2024.
He's got so much baggage.
Trump is the biggest threat to our democracy.
He kept denying
that he lost the election.
Donald Trump was responsible for the violence on January 6th.
He could have prevented it.
Trump talking about retribution.
Retribution and going after people is disrespect of our military.
The military people that he's disgraced.
91
criminal felonies.
4 different indictments.
He mishandled classified documents.
Taking documents.
Now his desire to do away with NATO.
Donald Trump talks about abandoning Ukraine.
He said he'll be a dictator on day one.
If he's going to be a dictator on day one, he's going to be a dictator, period.
That kind of stuff scares me.
Absolutely scares me.
A second Trump term would be worse than the first.
A second term for Trump
would be far more extreme.
It is dangerous, outright dangerous.
I cannot support Donald Trump again.
I would never vote for him again.
He'll never get my vote, ever, ever.
And it's not just regular Americans. Here's Paul Ryan, the former Republican Speaker of the House, announcing that he won't be voting for Trump.
Character is too important to me. And it's a job that requires the kind of character that he just doesn't have. Having said that, I really disagree with Biden on policy. I wrote in a Republican the last time. I'm going to write in a Republican this time.
You're going to write in
a
Republican?
I don't know who yet.
Or if you need a more recent example, how about Donald Trump's own vice president?
Well, I can't speculate on it, but what I can tell you is that in each of these cases, Donald Trump is pursuing and articulating an agenda that is at odds with the conservative agenda that we governed on during our 4 years. And that's why I cannot, in good conscience, endorse Donald Trump in this campaign.
In other words, despite the constant coverage of breathless Trump supporters fawning over their God King in some diner somewhere that gives the impression that he's invincible, the fact is that he is clearly not, as evidenced by looking at these voters, these Republican primaries, and even Trump's own officials and colleagues. Now, with that said, here's the usual caveat, and it's an important one. Ignore the primary results, ignore the polls. We should always act as if Trump is up by 90 points. That means we keep organizing, we keep working on our circles of people, we keep spreading good information about what this administration has done that the media refuses to cover. And we don't get complacent because we see a good poll, and we don't give up in despair because we see a bad poll. That is all noise. The work we do between now and November is all that matters. Which raises the question about this video and other similar videos that I've done about the same topic. Why cover these primary contests? Because it's telling us an important message, that Donald Trump is vulnerable and that we can win. Again, that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, because it's not, and it's going to require work and patience. But even Republican base voters are broadcasting that Donald Trump is in trouble. So our job is to do whatever we can to put together a coalition of Democrats, of independents, and of pro-democracy Republicans who recognize the abject, singular danger posed by this guy. This isn't about purity tests, it is about strategy. As for what we can do on an individual basis, and this has been my advice all along, find your circles. The 1 or 2 or 3 people in your lives who don't vote, who aren't interested in politics, who are ill-informed about what's going on, and make them your responsibility ahead of November. Here's my usual pitch, and you may have heard this before, but I firmly believe in the power of repetition. Joe Biden beat Donald Trump by only 2 votes per precinct in Wisconsin in 2020. That's it. 2 votes per precinct was the difference between a Biden win and a Trump win in the tipping point state, which should serve to underscore the impact that you bringing out 2 or 3 voters who wouldn't otherwise have voted in this election would have. It may feel small, but the margins in these elections are small. Right now, politics is a game of inches, so please make sure to do your part and help Joe Biden and the Democrats gain every inch they can get, if for nothing else than the preservation of democracy itself. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.